Hey everyone, how you doing today? It is Thursday morning, and what we do every other week is we speak with Dana from Himlane. How you doing this morning?
I'm great. Thanks, Michael, for having me.
Absolutely. I love these conversations because of all my experts, you and I get to talk about the nitty gritty of actually being a landlord, right? We have lots of experts talking about investing and multifamily and syndications and all of that, but we get to talk about being a landlord. And topic number one is the dreaded professional tenant. So why don't we first define what that is? I'll talk about some of my experience, but let's define what we mean by a professional tenant.
Professional tenant, and I don't have a formal definition, but essentially is a tenant who knows the laws better than you, tries to skirt around things and make your life miserable as a landlord. They're not following the rules. They're trying to get around things. The other thing I would leave with is a lot of times with professional tenants, they look qualified on paper, but indeed, when you look at the details or how they treat you, how they treat the property, they aren't qualified for the property.
Yeah, professional tenants, folks, in my opinion, are the ones, the ones that show up with cash in hand. We got to move in. They always got a story about why they got to do it today versus, over the weekend.
Yep.
They're always a little bit desperate. Again, they look good on paper, but they don't want you to scratch it. And really what a professional tenant to me is it's pain. If you are a mom and pop landlord trying to evict a professional tenant, you are likely going to lose. A property that I just closed on. When did I close on that? I think in February. So less than 30 days ago. Mom and pop had a professional tenant that was working them, and they beat them twice in court. I wanted the house. So what I told the sellers is I will, take the cost of hiring an attorney, which is what you should do to get them out.
Yeah.
So they were able to,
Yep.
wiggle a little bit. And instead of taking 60 days, it took almost 90. But they were out and we were able to close the deal. Professional tenants, there are websites, folks. I mean, there are people that they want to get in your place and then their intention is not to pay you for a year. That's their goal.
Yep. Yeah. And there's some signs with it, Michael, that I see with professional tenants.
Mhm.
The first is the stories you mentioned.
Yeah.
It is crazy. Every month there's a new story of why they can't pay rent. They're almost actors or actresses because they call you, they tell you they can't pay because someone is deathly sick in their family. They'll tell you these stories that if you're not a professional property manager, you're going to hear the story and you're going to say, I totally side with you on this. Like,
Yeah.
sounds like a terrible occurrence that you've had in your family, and I'm here to help you and let me extend things.
Mhm.
The problem is the stories keep coming. They keep getting worse. Usually about the same person. They'll have the story go on for 12 months.
Sure.
And in those cases, as a landlord, it's hard for you to understand, is this actually the case or are they lying? And with a professional tenant, it's just all lies. It's all lies. And for you as a landlord, we always go back to that emotional part. It's emotional because suddenly their personal life has become your life as well, and you're in it. And so in those particular instances, you have to say, hey, your tenant asked you tomorrow for $2,000 cash, right? Because that's essentially what you're doing by not having them pay rent. Would you write them a check for $2,000? And you're like, well, of course I wouldn't write them a check for $2,000. Well, that's essentially what you're doing. You're having them live there for free and going through that. And so we see it a lot. The other thing I see a lot with professional tenants is the place is always uninhabitable. They put in a repair request
Yeah.
on the 28th of the month before,
Mhm.
saying there's been mold, it is all over the place, this place is uninhabitable. And they'll make sure to use that word because then they're going to want to say in court, I don't have to pay for the rent. And that's where the documentation is so important. Oh, okay, this is the first you've told us about this, right? Everything's in writing. This is the first we're hearing about this. We will get someone in right away to check on this. But that does cost you money, but you want to cross your T's, dot your I's, and have a third party come in to say, there's no sign of mold here. These tenants are just playing you. But yeah, there's a lot. It's the rent. I've seen some that aren't cash professional tenants. They come in and they're dressed in a suit and they'll say they'll pay, and they pay online and everything, and then suddenly the stories start hitting after they have those keys.
Yeah. For me, folks, again, a professional tenant is someone with experience. They've been through more evictions than some of you. And you need to protect yourself. For first, if you think you're encountering one, even if you have historically done evictions yourself, I would hire an attorney. See past experience I shared earlier. If they're professionals, go get a lawyer. You've got to have somebody on your side that's done more evictions than you have, and a local tenant attorney, landlord attorney is the way to go. But again, I go back to a professional tenant. Stories start early. It starts with the application. Maybe it's incomplete. Oh, I just got a new job and I don't know the phone number, right? Really? Oh, okay. Well, or, I can't get you a pay stub because I just got married and changed my name, or, the stories start right away. And if you have anybody pushing you to move in that afternoon, that's not good. Don't do your process. I got this. I'll pay double deposit. They're going to sing the song that you want to hear. Don't do it. Just don't do it. You're going to lose.
And then, Michael, I've seen some cases with professional tenants where they looked great on paper. They filled out everything. They crossed their T's, dotted their I's. It's kind of like those resumes you see. Someone went to a great school. They have all of this great employment experience. And then they come into work and you realize they just have everyone else do things and they don't do anything. And they're just trying to, boost up their resume, but they actually don't execute, right? Yeah. That happens all the time. That can happen with your tenants too. I've had situations where they had great credit, didn't need to move in right away, the professional tenant. But then you call the past property manager and you say, you have to be very careful about what you say, the questions you ask. But I've asked questions such as, are they, is the lease expired or are you guys terminating it early? And they say, the property manager will say, oh, well, we're terminating it early. And it's like, okay, sounds good. Is there a reason? Was it on them? Did they want to, or you? Oh, it was just mutual. Okay. Yeah. Would you rent to them again? No, I would not rent to them again. And these are like, if you call a professional property manager and they say that, it's like, oh, they've made this property's manager's life miserable.
Yeah.
And so there's that as well. I think some of that stuff that's not on, sometimes not even on the application, but you can hear from the past landlord will tell you a lot about what your experience is going to be like. If you're going to be a landlord, it's going to tell you what that experience is going to be like day to day with this person in the property.
Yeah. And just so we're clear, just so we flip the coin over, we're talking about here professional tenants. Let's just say there are total slumlord landlords out there, right? There's 5% of tenants that are horrible, and maybe it's 10% of landlords that are horrible. I don't want to have anybody think we're just picking on tenants. That's not the case.
Yeah.
But that's what we're talking about here, because I've had a few and it's very painful. So any closing thoughts on this?
I think the last closing thought on it, and that goes to your point. We do, at least at Hemline and I personally, make sure to always bend over backwards for tenants who are good tenants. They have a repair request. Let's get it done ASAP. Mm-hmm. You want to get a pet in the property. Great. Let's get that lease amendment out for you. Those types of things. But with it, there's also that upfront research you always want to do to make sure that the person you're getting in there is going to be a good, reputable person like you. Mm-hmm. And then to your point of slumlords, there's a lot out there. I've dealt with them too, and I can tell you so many stories about slumlords. And it is important when you are doing that background check to make sure, the reference check of the landlords, that it's not just a slumlord. And the questions you ask and how you ask them will really make a difference there as well.
Very, very cool. This is a lot of fun. I look forward to topic number 2. Thank you.
Great.